The first thing that broke was my phone. It vibrated once on the cafe table. Then again. Then kept going until the screen dimmed from heat. Missed calls. No messages. That was worse. I was sitting across the street from the steel and glass tower, watching black sedans line the curb, watching the German delegation step out with the kind of calm you only get when the numbers are already done. Upstairs, the deal was supposed to close. I didn't need to be in the room to know the timing. I knew Julian's habits too well. He always left the compliance slide for last. Always treated it like a footnote. Operational efficiency, streamlined structure, clean exit from legacy overhead. Words that sounded safe until someone checked the paperwork. My phone buzzed again, then stopped. That's when I knew my name had come up. My name is Clara. I'm 42 years old. I used to be the person they brought into rooms like that when everyone else wanted to move faster than the rules allowed. I wasn't invited anymore. My badge didn't open doors. My email no longer existed. According to Human Resources, I had been restructured out 120 days ago. According to the system, I hadn't gone anywhere. I took a sip of coffee and felt it turn sour in my mouth. Across the street, the tower reflected the sky back at itself, perfect and empty. Inside, someone was realizing that the federal registry doesn't care about org charts or new software or whose son is holding the remote. Another vibration. This time a voicemail notification. I didn't listen. I didn't need to hear the panic to recognize it. They wouldn't have asked the question unless they already knew the answer. This story is a work of fiction created by our writing team, inspired by workplace dynamics and regulatory realities. I folded my hands around the cup and waited. The cafe noise felt too loud, like the world hadn't noticed what had just shifted. Somewhere above me, a screen would have changed, a name would have appeared, an empty chair would have mattered for the first time if I no longer existed at the company. Why did the system still belong to me? My phone lit up again. This time, I picked it up. I didn't answer. Upstairs, they were learning what it meant to save money the wrong way. The meeting wasn't called to discuss me. That was the first lie. Julian stood at the head of the table with the remote in his hand, jacket off, sleeves rolled like he was about to build something instead of tear it down. The slide behind him was clean. One number in the corner, bolded. We saved $100,000, he said, tapping the screen, not looking at me, not needing to, by removing a department that slowed us down. A few people shifted. No one pushed back. He clicked again. A flow chart replaced the number. Boxes, arrows, a logo I didn't recognize. Compliance doesn't create revenue. It counts lines. This does both. The logo sat there, bright and cheap. An off-the-shelf artificial intelligence tool with a subscription price lower than my team's coffee budget. Someone near the window smiled. Someone else nodded. I waited for the pause, the moment where someone would ask how the tool handled federal filings or escalation thresholds or conflict reporting. It never came. Julian kept going. This isn't personal. It's efficiency. My chair felt smaller than it had that morning. I stayed quiet because silence was the only thing in the room that hadn't been rehearsed. Human Resources sat 2 seats away. Hands folded, eyes down. Legal didn't look up from their notes. When the slide deck ended, Julian glanced around like he'd just finished a favor. Questions I didn't raise my hand. I gathered my notebook, slid my pen inside, and stood. No one stopped me. No one asked where the safeguards went or who signed off on replacing them. Outside my office, a cardboard box waited. Inside it, I placed the blue regulatory binder last, the one with the tabs I'd labeled myself, the one that tracked decisions, exceptions, signatures. I set it neatly on my desk instead. I wanted it visible. I wanted someone to have to choose not to open it. How much is a reputation worth when someone else is cutting costs by the time I reach the elevator? My access badge didn't work. A polite beep. A red light. A security guard pretended not to notice. My phone buzzed as the doors closed. A calendar invite disappeared. Then another. By the time I stepped into the lobby, my email had stopped syncing. They erased my office quickly. Too quickly. And that speed The confidence of it pressed in on me harder than the number on Julian's slide ever had. The confirmation didn't come from a person. It came from a screen. I logged in using an old bookmark I hadn't deleted yet. The page loaded slower than I remembered, like it was deciding whether to recognize me. Then my name appeared at the top. Unchanged. Same designation. Same authority. Active. I refreshed. It stayed. My badge didn't open doors anymore. My email bounced, but the Federal Compliance Registry still listed me as the primary authority. No replacement. No end date. No transition note. I called Human Resources first. The line rang longer than it used to. That was legal. Came back through the receiver after a pause. They handle filings. Legal answered on the third ring. A voice I knew, clipped and careful. HR should have submitted the update. So no one did. Another pause. Shorter this time. Your access was removed. That wasn't the question. Silence stretched just enough to become an answer. Removing a name from the registry costs money? It requires board approval, paperwork, time. Someone had decided none of that was worth it. It was easier to lock me out and leave the record untouched. Cheaper, quieter. They wanted the protection without the person. An unpaid legal shield. My phone lit up with an internal number I still recognized. Legal again. The tone had changed. Lower. More contained. We'll clean it up next cycle. Next cycle was months away. Months where my name absorbed risk while someone else took credit for speed. If the system failed, whose signature would regulators call first? I need written confirmation. I said, a breath on the other end. There's nothing to confirm. Then put that in writing. The line went dead. I sat there longer than I meant to. Watching the page as if it might blink and correct itself, it didn't. The system was doing exactly what it was designed to do, assign responsibility to the last person officially standing. My phone buzzed again. A calendar request from legal. Marked urgent. No details. Just a time and a subject line that made my jaw tighten. Responsibility confirmation. I didn't decline it. I didn't accept it either. I closed the app and took a screenshot of the registry instead, saving it twice. Whatever was coming next. They were already choosing their version of the story. The call came after midnight. Not late enough to be an emergency. Early enough to feel deliberate. I let it ring once before answering. The voice on the other end hadn't changed. Still calm. Still measured. The same voice that used to correct my drafts with a red pen and a nod. You should check your email. He said, no greeting. No preamble. A document was already there. Responsibility confirmation. Clean title. Neutral language. Too neutral. Sign it. He continued. This doesn't have to get messy. I'll arrange compensation. Quietly. I opened the file. The dates jumped out before the paragraphs did. Old dates. Wrong dates. A neat attempt to pull the present backward and make it look continuous. Backdated responsibility dressed up as administrative cleanup. You're asking me to take ownership? I said, a pause. Short. Controlled. To acknowledge continuity. Julian's new system sat between the lines. The missed checks, the automated approvals, every corner cut wrapped into a document that would make it all mine. You were always thorough, he added. This protects everyone, including him. I scrolled once more, slower this time. The language was careful, but the weight was obvious. One signature would transfer months of risk onto my name and seal it with intent. They weren't asking me to help. They were asking me to disappear properly. How long did they think I'd trade my future for the comfort of their timeline? I need time. I said, you don't. Came back immediately. The first crack. The board meets tomorrow. I closed the document, hovered over the reply field, then moved my thumb to the other option and pressed delete. The call ended without goodbye. I sat there longer than I should have, watching the empty inbox refresh like it might argue with me. It didn't. Silence settled in. Heavier now, but cleaner. My phone vibrated again. Not a call. A calendar alert. Auto-generated. Marked mandatory. Same subject line. Same pressure. Different tactic. I took another screenshot. Backed it up. and set my phone face down on the table. If they wanted an answer, they were going to have to wait. And waiting, I knew, was the one thing their system couldn't afford. I didn't announce anything. I didn't set an out-of-office reply. I packed light and left before sunrise. Phone on airplane mode. Notifications stripped down to nothing that could pull me back by accident. They kept trying anyway. A voicemail arrived while I was still in transit. Then another. Different numbers. Same urgency. Calendar holds stacked on top of each other like they could block time I no longer offered. I let them sit. Availability had been doing too much work for them already. I knew the timetable without checking. Final diligence window. Board alignment. Signing prep. The moment when someone asks for a confirmation no software can generate, I also knew exactly when my silence would stop being inconvenient and start being dangerous. I wasn't breaking anything. I wasn't touching their files or logging into their systems. I was doing the one thing they hadn't planned for. Nothing. A message finally pushed through from legal, flagged high priority, 3 sentences, all pressure, no facts. A request framed as a reminder. Then a reminder framed as an expectation. The language shifted just enough to tell me they were running out of room. I set the phone face down and counted to 10, then 20. I imagined the meeting rooms filling, the questions circling closer to the edge they didn't want to name yet. If absence was neutral, why did it feel like leverage by the second day? The tone changed again. Shorter, colder, less polite. A different voice tried. Then another, each one assuming I'd flinch first. I didn't. Compliance isn't about presence. It's about validation at the exact moment risk turns real. Remove that, and the structure keeps moving until it doesn't know how to stop. Late that night, a new alert broke through the silence. Not a request this time. An internal memo forwarded by mistake. My name sat at the bottom, typed where a signature should have been. I took a screenshot and saved it to a secure folder. Then I powered the phone down completely. They were improvising now. And improvisation, at this stage, meant someone was about to make a choice that couldn't be undone. I learned about the signature from a forwarded memo that wasn't meant for me. The subject line was bland. Compliance alignment. The body was worse tight, reassuring, full of verbs that sounded finished. At the bottom sat my name, rendered in the company's digital script. Clean, confident, wrong. A second page followed, marked for board review. The language shifted there. Firmer, declarative. All compliance matters are confirmed. Past tense, closed. Julian didn't need my presence anymore. He needed my shape. Another file came through minutes later, copied too widely to hide the mistake. Someone asked whether the confirmation covered the last 4 months. A reply landed fast. Yes, verified. No attachment. No registry reference. Just the word. Dropped like a doorstop. I watched the timestamp stack. I watched the certainty grow. Confidence, unchecked, starts to feel like permission. A call came in from an unfamiliar extension. The voice didn't bother with pleasantries. The board needs assurance. This puts everyone at ease. The pause after that sentence carried an expectation, agreement, gratitude, compliance. They weren't asking anymore. They were narrating. I opened the registry again and refreshed. My name remained active. Same authority. Same exposure. The system doesn't care who typed what. It cares who owns it. If he believed no one still checked federal records by hand, what else did he think had been automated away? Another message arrived. This one sharper. We're aligned. Don't complicate this. I saved everything. The memo, the headers, the routing paths. Then I locked the folder and mirrored it off device. Quiet work, careful work, the kind Julian thought belonged to a different era. The next notification wasn't an email. It was a meeting ad with a title that tried to sound routine and failed. Final confirmation. I declined it without comment. Somewhere, a board was being told the risk had been handled. Somewhere else, a lie was settling into place, brittle and visible. And once lies like that set, they don't flex. They crack. The call came through marked private. The kind of ring that assumes it will be answered. I picked up on the third vibration. The voice on the other end wasn't the one I remembered from board meetings. It had lost its edge. It rushed, then stopped, as if the words were bumping into each other on the way out. "We need you," he said. Not my name. Not an apology. Just need... I could hear the room behind him, chairs shifting. A low murmur that cut off the moment he turned away. Someone was counting time out loud. Someone else was reminding him that the delegation was waiting. They won't sign. He continued, not without live confirmation from the compliance authority. A breath. Too quick. This can be fixed. I let the silence stretch long enough to change the shape of the conversation. Power does that when it moves. They're asking for you. He added, softer now. Video or voice. Just a confirmation. I pictured the screen upstairs. The signature. The memo. My name doing work I hadn't agreed to. I pictured Julian standing where certainty used to live. What does it sound like when a man realizes his leverage has expired? According to the employment documents your son signed? I said, keeping my voice even. I haven't existed at that company for 120 days. The line went quiet, not disconnected, held. That doesn't matter. He tried. This is about the company. It matters. I replied, it's the only thing that does. He shifted tactics. Promises followed. Titles. A return framed as reconciliation. None of it landed. The words were arriving too late, stacked on top of each other like they could build a bridge back to where he stood. I need you to understand what's at stake. He said, I do. Another pause. Shorter this time. Desperate. If you don't help us, this becomes very public. I didn't answer that. I didn't need to. I have to go, I said, and ended the call before he could find another angle. My phone stayed quiet after that. No follow-up. No second attempt. Upstairs. The clock had stopped moving for them. For me, it had just started. I walked into the lobby and stopped short of the elevators. The security desk looked up, then away. My badge wasn't active anymore, but no one asked me to leave. The glass walls carried sound too well. Raised voices from above. A meeting unraveling in real time. Footsteps hit the marble hard. Too fast to be calm. The CEO came first. Jacket half on. Tie pulled loose like it had betrayed him. Julian followed. Face flushed. Jaw tight. Moving with the kind of energy that had nowhere left to go. There you are, Julian snapped, closing the distance. You did this on purpose. I didn't step back. I reached into my bag and took out the folded printout instead. The registry page. Crisp. Dated. My name still anchored to the role they claimed no longer existed. He laughed once, sharp and brittle. That's outdated. I unfolded the page all the way and held it between us. It refreshed this morning. The CEO's eyes dropped. He didn't touch it. He didn't need to. You could have fixed this. Julian pushed. One call, one line. Fixing it would have meant lying. I answered. You already did that part. His voice rose. Heads turned. Phones came out. Accountability has a sound when it arrives. And it isn't polite. You ran a $285 million machine without brakes. I said, keeping my voice low. I didn't remove them. I was the only one who knew they were already gone. Behind the glass railing above us, movement stilled. The German team had gathered along the mezzanine. Watching without speaking, one of them lifted a phone. Another closed a folder with finality that carried farther than shouting. What does accountability look like when everyone is watching a woman in a dark suit leaned over the rail and spoke once? Clear and unhurried. We're withdrawing. Effective immediately. No argument followed. No bargaining. The words landed and stayed where they fell. Julian turned back to me, searching for something that might still work. There was nothing left to offer. I folded the registry page again and put it away. The elevators dinged behind me, empty and waiting, but I didn't step inside. I didn't need to go anywhere yet. The pressure had shifted, and it wasn't mine to carry anymore. The fallout didn't arrive all at once. It came in pieces, each one heavier than the last. An unfamiliar number lit up my phone the next morning. The voice on the line was controlled, practiced. We're opening an inquiry into recent filings. No accusation yet. Just confirmation that the record had been noticed, that the paperwork Julian thought no one read had been read carefully, line by line. By noon, the market reacted, not with panic. With distance, the credit desk called it a downgrade. Short, clean, no emotion attached. Value slid quietly. The way confidence leaves a room when no one is watching. Julian didn't call me. His name surfaced anyway, threaded through messages I wasn't meant to see but received all the same. Phrases like personal exposure and individual liability replaced his old vocabulary of speed and scale. Someone forwarded an internal note by mistake, then tried to recall it. Too late. The language was there. So was his signature. How fast can a company fall once the truth is documented? Another call came in that afternoon. This one waited for me to speak first. I didn't. We're reassessing our North American strategy, the woman said at last. Her accent was familiar now. Calm. Exact. We need someone independent. Someone who understands where systems break before they do. She didn't promise safety. She didn't offer flattery. She named the role and paused. Letting the weight of it settle between us, I won't clean up anyone's mess quietly. I said, that's why we called. I agreed to a meeting. Nothing more. The silence after felt earned. Later, a final message slipped through from an old address. No greeting. Just a sentence asking if any of this had been necessary. I didn't answer. Necessity had never been part of their calculations before. I closed the thread and set the phone down. Outside, the day kept moving. Inside the company I'd left behind, something essential had burned away, leaving only what could survive inspection. The office they gave me faced the river. Glass, quiet, a desk that didn't wobble when I leaned on it. The first meeting ended early because no one tried to rush the checklist. When someone asked for a shortcut, the room waited for the answer instead of assuming it. An email slipped in late afternoon from an address I didn't recognize at first. Then I did. Short, defensive. He wanted to know why I'd been so ruthless. He wrote as if speed had failed him and language might save him instead. I closed the message without replying. Another window popped up with a draft report open on my screen. Names aligned with responsibilities. Dates matched actions. No ambiguity left to hide behind. The work felt familiar in my hands, steady and exact. When a director pushed back, I slid the registry across the table and waited. The push ended there. Later, a junior analyst hovered at my door, unsure. I nodded him in. He pointed to a line item and asked if it really mattered. I showed him how one unchecked line turns into a chain reaction. He listened. He wrote it down. That night, as the building thinned out, I reopened the old insult in my head and set it where it belonged. I never made the company money. I decided whether the money they made could legally belong to them. Here's the lesson I earned the hard way. Boundaries are not attitude problems. They are safety systems. If you remove them to look efficient, you don't move faster, you remove the brakes. And when something fails, the record remembers who was responsible. I shut the file and powered down. My name wasn't a ghost anymore. It didn't need to be loud. It only needed to be accurate. Thanks for staying with this story. If it hit close to home, I'd like to hear what part stayed with you. Drop a comment and tell me. If you want more stories like this, well, follow along. I'll keep telling them the way I lived them: clear lines, firm exits, and no signatures I don't own.